If you've been scrolling through endless shelves of bookshelf speakers, watching video after video of best for budget lists, and still feel stuck wondering whether a compact pair can really fill a room without blowing your budget, you're not alone. That hesitation trying to picture a speaker that looks tiny on a stand but actually delivers the punch you need for movies, music, and gaming shows up in a lot of comments on tech forums. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to walk through exactly what the DYNAUDIO Emit 20 pair does in a typical living room setup, who will actually benefit from its size and tuning, and where it might fall short if you're expecting a full-range powerhouse. First off, let's talk about the environment these speakers are meant for. The Emit 20 is a 6.7-inch mid-bass driver paired with a 1.1-inch soft dome tweeter, a combination that DYNAUDIO engineers tuned in Denmark to hit a smooth, balanced curve rather than chasing extreme highs or booming lows. In practice, that translates to a sound that feels natural when you're listening to a vinyl-style acoustic album at a moderate volume, but it also holds its own when you crank up a blockbuster soundtrack for a movie night. I tried them on a standard 3x5-foot bookshelf in a medium-sized apartment living room, positioned at ear level on the floor and angled slightly toward the listening spot. The room had typical drywall, a couple of framed prints on the walls, and a modest amount of soft furnishings, nothing overly absorptive, nothing dramatically reflective. What you notice immediately is the clarity in the midrange. Vocals sit right in front of you, and guitars have that articulate snap that makes you feel like the player is right in the room. The soft dome tweeter does a respectable job of extending the high frequencies without sounding thin, cymbals on a jazz track shimmer without becoming piercing. The mid/bass driver, while not a subwoofer, delivers enough body to make a bass line feel present, but you'll still want a dedicated sub if you love those deep, cinematic rumbles. In short, the Emit 20 gives you a clean, detailed soundstage that works well for music genres that sit in the 200 Hz to 5 kHz sweet spot, and it handles dialogue in movies with enough precision that you don't have to squint at the subtitles. Now, let's get into the practical strengths that matter after you pull the boxes out of the packaging. The first thing I appreciated is the footprint. At just under 9 inches wide, they sit comfortably on a side table or a narrow shelf without looking out of place. The black satin finish blends nicely with modern decor, and the built-in feet help isolate the drivers from the surface, reducing unwanted vibration that could muddy the sound. Because the drivers are relatively small, they don't demand a massive amp. A modest stereo receiver that delivers 30-40 watts per channel is enough to drive them to a satisfying volume level in a room up to about 180 square feet. That makes them a good match for people who already own a decent receiver but don't want to invest in a high-power amp just for a pair of speakers. Another practical advantage is the tuning philosophy. DYNAUDIO's Danish design team focused on achieving a balanced response rather than boosting any single frequency band. The result is a speaker that doesn't require a lot of EQ fiddling out of the box. I plugged them into a standard TV soundbar output for a quick test, and the audio sounded natural enough that I didn't reach for the room correction settings on my AVR. That ease of integration is a real time saver for folks who aren't comfortable spending an afternoon tweaking sliders. On the flip side, there are a few trade-offs you should be aware of before you click Add to Cart. Because the Emit 20 is built for compactness, the low-frequency extension is limited. If you regularly listen to EDM, hip-hop, or any genre that leans heavily on sub-bass, you'll notice a slight roll-off around 45 Hz, meaning that the deepest kicks will feel more like a thump than a full-bodied boom. This isn't a defect, just a design choice, but it's something that can feel disappointing if you're expecting a full home theater experience without a separate subwoofer. The tweeter, while smooth, can become a tad recessed when you push the volume past 80% on a powerful amp. In a very quiet room, that's not an issue, but in a larger space where you need higher output, the high frequencies can start to lose a bit of presence. Pairing the Emit 20 with a receiver that offers a gentle high-frequency roll-off control can mitigate this, but it does require a little extra attention. Who should buy these speakers? If you're a music lover who enjoys a clean, accurate representation of acoustic, indie, folk, or classic rock records, and you have a modestly sized living area, the Emit 20 fits the bill nicely. They also work well as front left and front right channels in a 2.1 or 3.1 home theater setup where you plan to add a sub later. Their aesthetic makes them suitable for modern apartments.